So this is where we are at this morning, and by this time, probably everybody already knows that Trump um, decided to impose another 25% tariffs on Canadian aluminum, on steel, and on a host of other products. Um, Clearly, this is unprecedented, and quite frankly, I don't know where this is taking us and where we're heading. There are probably more than two scenarios here, but two scenarios that jump at me. And one of them I would very much love not to think about or even to talk about, but it's reality. We cannot turn our heads away and say this is not going to happen. So, first scenario, again, I really hate to talk about it, is Trump will keep pushing to tank the Canadian economy, clearly like what we heard in the news from some of the government officials here in Canada, to make it easier to annex Canada. This is unacceptable. This is something that should not, must not, and will not happen. But what's the other approach? What's the other scenario here? This is a turning point in the history of the Canadian economy and in our lives. There will be no one that will not be impacted by those tariffs, whether you work in the automobile industry or in the aluminum manufacturing, what have you. We all will be impacted. But I think we have a choice here. And this is an unprecedented event, and we have to have an unprecedented response and way of thinking. I wouldn't think at this point in time and in a situation as such, our long-standing way of thinking about business and how we do business with the rest of the world will suffice. I think we need to have a different approach. One thing that jumps at me is clearly, and that's the obvious, is for Canadian businesses to take that leap of faith and be more open-minded to doing business with other parts of the world. We absolutely have to get our Canadian products. We have a huge number of Canadian products in every sector and in every industry that one can think of. We need to find a way to get these products to other markets. If you read some stats, this was, I wouldn't say surprising, but it was a great news in one way, but scary. Canada has the 71% reserve. 71% of the Canadian maple leaf production represents the, sorry, let me say that again. Canada has 71% of the world need of maple syrup. We produce 71% of maple syrup. Most of that goes to the American market. We're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, lumber producers. 85% of lumber export goes to the United States. And list goes on and on and on. We absolutely have to find alternative markets, but as well, I think it's time for us to to show our resilience and bring forward our courage and accept to look into bringing products from other parts of the world. I wouldn't think using our long-time way of thinking about being too selective in our requirements would be of the best service to us at this time. I'm not saying by no way, shape, or form that we should completely disregard our quality and what we look for as a quality in products, but I think it's an opportunity for us to reevaluate our selection criteria. How do we go about selecting products and approving them to come into Canada? I think this is an opportunity for our legislators to have an unprecedented new way of thinking, to revamp our policies, procedures, and how we go about approving products that come into Canada. On the other hand, talk about the automobile industry. We know this is one of the biggest industries in Canada that will be impacted. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are on the line. The big question here is, why do we not have a genuine A to Z Canadian manufactured car, a Canadian car brand? This is something that's mind-boggling, I would say. I totally understand. This goes back years, probably 100 years or so. And this goes back to the fact that we had those agreements with the government of the United States. But this is different. I totally appreciate and respect that we had a long-standing relationship with the USA. But again, these are unprecedented times, and this is different. And if we were to save the Canadian economy, not just to save it, I actually think it is wrong to think at this point in time that we need to save the Canadian economy. We need to think that we want to, of course, live through and go through this unprecedented event, but as well, how can we ensure and guarantee this never ever happens again? Not just with the United States, with any other country. It's important for us to have a different way of thinking. It's important for us to start building our Canadian automobile industry. We have the talent, we have the know-how, we have the funds, we have the government support, we have the manufacturing plants. I hope if this message gets out there, and if it crosses the desk, the desk of our new Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Carney, I hope I would never think of how unfortunate this situation is, but I see a great silver lining here, just like we did it and we made it through the COVID event. This is bigger. I think the impact of this is way bigger. COVID was a pandemic that passed. I don't know if we can sustain the way we do things for next 4 years with Trump in the administration. And by the way, even if he does not end up executing on his threats to Canada, the fact that he goes out on his Truth Social and talks about what he talks about, I really don't want to repeat what he said because it's just ridiculous. That disrupts the market. We have to find a way to create our own products, export to other markets. We have to find a way to be self-sustaining. We do not need to have other products come into Canada. We need to build our own products. We need to make our own products by all ways and means. I'm by no means an economic expert, but this is just very clear to me. It's very risky to depend on other countries, and this is an example that we're living through today. Let's build our Canadian automobile industry. Let's build our furniture. Let's continue building our plants and vertical agriculture, and produce our vegetables. Like I said, this is an unprecedented time, and it calls for an unprecedented way of thinking, and taking some, I wouldn't say risks, but taking some really courageous steps forward. God bless us all, and God bless Canada.